it's also cool to hear behind the scenes when you're not a contestant, because I think when you're part of the band, there's a lot less pressure than being a contestant, I would assume.
Oh, for sure. I would agree.
I would say the opposite.
Oh, for real?
Really? Oh, okay.
Well, because
Okay.
I mean, if you're contesting and you messed up, it's on you, right? Because you're messing up. But the band had to try to not mess up for you, and the band had to try to follow you if you mess up, so you don't sound and look bad. So it's double the pressure because you cannot mess up, and if they mess up, you have to fix their mess. Hi, my name is Alexis Baro, and I'm a guest on this another episode of the Sit Down Podcast.
Are you familiar with Kai the Hatchet Killer or whatever? I was thinking of isolating that soundbite and using it in our podcast where it could be like, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, smash.
Holy shit. That's where you were going with that? We say welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us this week, my man. Pleased to meet you.
Yeah.
So he pronounces his name differently than I would have pronounced it. And that's probably because of your heritage, I think.
So how were you pronouncing?
So my daughter is Alexis.
Oh, okay.
So that's I think the North American, well, no, because you're from Cuba originally, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Dumb question. Is Cuba still North America? Yeah, it is, right?
No, it's the Caribbean.
Caribbean?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Top of the Caribbean, just south of Florida. The biggest of the islands of the Caribbean.
Oh, man. I've never been. I would love to go. I've never been there. Is that's not where you are right now, though, hey?
No, I'm in Toronto.
In Toronto? How long have you been in Toronto for?
20 years, 21 years. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So for those of you watching or listening, our guest tonight, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mark. This is the story that I was told.
Okay.
On how this came to be.
Let's see how well I
Let's see how
explained it.
much information Mark gives me, which isn't a lot.
Okay.
So from what I understand is that you reached out to Funky Moose Records because you were looking to get your new album pressed on vinyl, and then that's how you and Mark kind of got in touch, and in conversation, Mark invited you to come talk about the album and yourself as an artist on the podcast. Is that accurate?
That's correct. That's perfect. Exactly.
I did my job right.
Right on. Well, let's dive right into it. I want to know about your album. So I got to listen to a couple songs off of your website today. There's so much music on there, but so I just randomly clicked on a couple, and played them through. And I'll be honest with you, I've never really sat down and listened to your style of music before. So I definitely want to go back and listen to some more, because I'm just so very unfamiliar with it, but I am very intrigued as well. So can you tell us?
That was kind of the reason why I invited him, because normally,
it's not really in our wheelhouse of music that we listen to.
So when you and I were having a conversation, you talked about your new album, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what this is. And you sent me the Spotify link.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. It made me move, and I was like, yeah, I like this. And it made me think of something social club. Havana Social Club?
Yeah. But Buena Vista Social Club.
Buena Vista Social Club.
That's what you're talking.
See, that had to come from far. That's but so that's what it reminded me of. And it's like, it and then I thought, well, we've never had an artist with this kind of music on the show, so here we are.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is like you're playing the trumpet, correct?
Yes, I am.
That's not the only instrument that you play though, right? On the album, or is it?
On the album, yeah. I mean, professionally, that's what I do. I'm a trumpet player. I write some of the music sometimes. I arrange some of the music. But yeah, I'm professionally a trumpet player. I mean, I got tons of gadgets. I got a keyboard, and I play valve trombone sometimes. But yeah, I'm a trumpet player. That's my main thing.
All right.
So how did you get inspired to play jazz trumpet? Because I see you have posters behind you, and I can't quite see.
Yeah,
Is that Miles Davis behind
I
you?
got like Miles. I got Dizzy. I got.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I got inspired. I mean, it wasn't about playing jazz per se. It was about the abilities and the freedom, the things that you can do with the trumpet. I grew up in a classical type of world, and in Cuba, the educational system when you go through the music conservatory is all through classical and technique and all that stuff, right? So I had this one trumpet teacher that gave me a couple of tapes of trumpet players, not for the sake of listening to jazz, but for the sake of knowing what can be done with the trumpet. As I was changing my embouchure or correcting the way that I played, and he said, if you can get a good embouchure, this is some of the things that you can do with the instrument. And I had no idea what this was. I was like, man, this sounds great. What is this? It was a big band record, and a bunch of solos and stuff. And I asked him, like, is that written down somewhere? Like, what is this? And I said, no, this is a big band. It's like jazz. They're like, are you really are they improvising this? What? So that sort of spiked my interest, and from there on, I started digging more into what the music was about, and just spiked my interest. But it all started with the diversity and the wide range of the instrument. Like what can you do with the trumpet? Like what is possible to be done with the instrument, right? If you have a good technique, a good embouchure, how far you can get playing the instrument. And that sort of that opened for me the way for the jazz world, I would say, because it's the most freedom word. I mean, classical music is something that is very technical, and once you develop the abilities, you can repeat the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, it might not be the same way every time, but it could be pretty close. Right, there's not really a lot of the boundaries they're very close. I guess you're in a square and you can't really walk away from it. But we're talking to jazz. The possibilities are endless, right? So you can do many things, and that who doesn't like freedom, right?
yeah, no doubt.
So,
no doubt.
It's like that's the thing. If you have freedom to be creative and do whatever you can do with your instrument and explore. Anything that you can do with it, then that's the best thing that you can achieve playing music, right?
Right. Do you happen to have one of your trumpets? I'm presuming you have more than one, but do you happen to have one handy that we could have a look see?
I do. Look, I'm in my mixer room. I record here. This is my office, and of course I have one right here.
Oh, look at that.
Ah.
So. Okay,
oh, it's not straight.
For my puny little brain here.
Yeah.
So on the trumpet, there is only 3. I don't even know what they're called.
Valves.
3 things to press down.
Yeah.
Valves. Yeah.
Valves.
Yeah.
Now, how can you get so much different tones and sounds out of it with just 3 valves to press? You think of a guitar has got 5, 6 strings, 12 strings, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then you can get all those different notes. So how can you get all those with just 3 valves?
That's the question that every non-brass player always asks. How can you?
My little brain, dude.
It's a combination. Okay, so you've seen the trombone, right?
Yes.
So
it slides.
Yeah. So when you do the slide, you literally change the length of the instrument, right? Because the slide goes, right? So what you do when you're pressing the buttons, you're literally doing kind of the same thing because this is interconnected holes inside, right? There's holes. So you're literally changing the length of the instrument while you press the valves. And by changing the length, you're changing notes because, it's by air. So, a piece of tube, depending on how long or how short it is, it has a different type of note. So that's what you do. And then, the rest you actually do it with the embouchure, the tongue, and you can hear the high notes or the lower notes. That's something that you do with your embouchure, right? So it's a combination of that, right? This came from like natural instrument way back in the days where they only have like holes and you can only play in one pitch or certain notes in one key. But it developed into a valve instrument, and you can play every note in a harmonic range, every single note. But it's just a combination of the valves and the embouchure and the tongue, right? To help you with the registers. Yeah.
That's kind of we host open stage in Saskatoon, and how the didgeridoo was there. There are no valves or anything. It's one straight tube, and he made different sounds just by with his lips.
That's kind of what I was thinking of too. I was about to ask. I was like, so there's different ways to put your lips on the end of that.
Yeah, it's not different ways of putting the lips. It's just like it's the pressure, it's the tongue movement, and it's a combination of a couple things. But that's one of the things. Like you can play a whole bunch of notes without pressing any valve. Yeah. Right? But in order to get like in a chromatic way to play every single note, then it's that's what the valves are.
Yeah, right? You betcha. Right on.
Cool. So let's talk about the album. How did that come about? Because you said you'd write some songs. Does that mean you didn't write all the songs on the album?
Okay, well, for this album, no, I wrote like half of it. But that wasn't really the point of this. I don't know if you took a look at my discography. This is my 7th album, right?
Yep.
So
I didn't count them, but I knew there were more.
Yeah. Same here. I didn't count them, but I was like, holy shit, there's a lot here.
Yeah. This is my 7th. I write for most of my album's music. I write it and I arrange it. I also like to include, for most of them, I like to throw in a cover here and there, maybe 2 or 3. That's usually what I do. But for this one, the title is Mi Raíz, My Roots, and it's a tribute to the Cuban trumpet. So the reason I didn't write and I didn't want to write everything or most of the thing is because I wanted to include classics of the Cuban music sort of history, and that is the idea of this album. I'm going through from the beginnings of me knowing how did the trumpet get to Cuba, pretty much, and integrated into the Cuban society of the days, and I'm talking about like the 1700s, all the way to modern times, right? So that's there are too many classics to count, but there's a lot of classics that I consider that I should put in the album because they're part of the history of music, or of Cuban music. So that's the main reason why I didn't write more songs. I did include it, some originals, and I also wrote like a couple things, like the very first song, the very first interlude thing of the album, the intro, is literally based on cornet calls. So just so you have an idea, back in the 1800s, when the Cuba was colonized by the Spaniards, the Spaniards brought their own instruments to the island, and then we took among the instruments we took from them, we took the cornet, right, the horn, the bugle, whatever they had. Like, so we use those instruments as war calls. So there was different calls for different stages of the battle, right?
Right.
Like retreat, let's go, forward, let's cut some heads, like
Yeah.
depending on let's salute the flag, right?
Right.
There was a
Right.
different type of. So I mean, nobody's gonna be on top of a horse and start yelling, "Let's go!"
Right.
So
Right.
they gotta go horn with a guy with a horn playing certain type of call, and that everybody knows what that means.
Right.
So to me, that's the earliest appearance of anything related to a trumpet in Cuba, right? So,
Okay.
So the very first song on the album, in a very esoteric kind of way, I played a few of those bugle or cornet calls, but in an esoteric way. So that's what's called battleground, right? So because that's where they were used. They were used in the battleground.
Right.
So that's how it started. Yeah, that's how I started the album with that, and then eventually, I tried to showcase every aspect of the music through the history of music where the trumpet was present, right? From street playing to small ensembles to a bigger ensembles to what you hear today, right? So I went through kind of chronologically through what the different styles and genres where the music, where the trumpet was like present. Yeah,
like the evolution of it, almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an evolution, but it's an like evolution with the music, right? Like
with the sound of it. Yeah,
with the sound of the times, right? In the early 1900s, what happened, and as music developed in a certain way, I played something from the Big Bang era, and even I brought it to like modern jazz and modern salsa. Like some of the last tracks of the album are like very, very kind of modern Cuban danceable stuff, right?
Right.
A couple of a singer singing a couple songs, and I tried to play homage to some of the greater trumpet players too. I on the last song of the album, it's called "Homage to the Cuban Trumpet." I mentioned a whole lot of trumpet players. Well, I don't mention it; the singer mentioned it, but it's a song that I co-wrote with a tress player that arranged it. We mentioned a whole bunch of trumpet players from long time to now, but it's not you cannot say even half of it in one song because there's too many, right? Trumpet is an instrument that it's like New Orleans, right? Like you turn around and it's like a million trumpet players. Cuba has an immense amount of trumpet players everywhere.
Wow.
So on this album, when you collaborate with other musicians, are those Cuban musicians, or are they here in Canada, or
for the most part, they are Cuban musicians, and for the most part, they are in Canada. I invited some friends from Montreal. I invited a friend from Vancouver, actually Victoria, Cuban trumpet player that I really admire. And then I had a couple of special guests. I had Jesus Alimagne, which he was the director of a band that came out at the same time as the Buena Vista Social Club. There was another band called Cubanismo, that it was sort of the same thing. And fortunately, I was able to tour with them for a few years just before the pandemic. And it was a band led by a trumpet player. So this guy, he's still one of the names on the Cuban history of trumpet. So because we had this relationship of touring together, he agreed to be a guest. We played a duet on an album. A duet that was originally recorded by Arturo Sandoval and Jorge Barona with Irakere. So some kind of legendary stuff that we attempt to re-record it and sort of pay homage to.
Right.
And I mean, I have Alberto. Alberto is a great singer that he lived in Toronto. He's living in Miami now, but he lived for many years. He lived in Toronto, so we're really good friends. And a few guests, but most of the guys were here. Some I got a piano player from Ottawa. Well, not from Ottawa, Cuban, but living in Ottawa as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, couple people.
Cool.
I tried to gather some of the musicians, the Cuban musicians that I know that could enhance the album. That were in Canada for the most part. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So when you tour, I mean, Joel and I like indie rock mostly, so that's kind of the scene we're in.
Yeah.
But for the music you play, what kind of settings do you usually end up at when you get invited to play somewhere?
Well, it depends what album I'm touring. To be quick, yeah, because I've done several albums, and I like to change things around a bit. So not every album I do is Latin jazz. I done the funk stuff. I've done the ballad stuff. I've done the fusion stuff. So yeah, it's usually either jazz festival or jazz society clubs. I think I was in Saskatchewan. I haven't been in a long time, but I think I did once or twice. I did the jazz club there. I can't remember the name. It's been years. But yeah, it's usually jazz clubs, jazz societies, and jazz club, and usually a lot of jazz societies are involved with jazz clubs. So when you get like a
Right.
cross Canada type of tour, yeah, it's usually like clubs or
Yeah.
sometimes jazz society, they have their own venues where they put events, and like it's usually either spring or fall, unless you're doing the festivals. Like the festivals, as we all know,
Right.
Yep.
through the summer, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the kind of venues that
So have you played Jazz Fest in Saskatoon?
No, I played a club. But it was a really long time ago. I've been to Saskatoon maybe twice, three times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Was
What
it
was
in
that little
the
jazzy
basement,
one?
I think.
Is that what it was called? Where we saw
Yeah.
the basement? Yeah.
Is
I
that
think
is that what it was?
Okay.
Yeah, the basement. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we've been there. Who did we see there? Electric Religious
Electric
and the
Religious.
North Sound,
Yes.
I think,
Yeah.
was who we saw there, right?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a nice intimate setting.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I've been there twice, I think.
Nice. Have you? So your other existing albums,
Yeah.
are those pressed to vinyl as well, or is this your first attempt to get it?
This is my first attempt to get it. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I wasn't. I mean, I appreciate the vinyl stuff, but I didn't think the other stuff that I had. I mean, I have some older records that would be great on vinyl, but again, vinyl is expensive. So when this record came out, I was like, you know what? Instead of getting any of my older albums in vinyl, let's just get the fresh one. Attempted to get it on vinyl, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Some of the old ones, yeah.
Yeah. I will get back to you. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for pricing. So
okay, yeah, no, I know.
I'll get you.
So okay, so well, question for kind of the two of you, I guess. But in your conversations and trying to find out like the best pressing plant or whatnot throughout Canada, can you maybe tell me as well as the listeners like what that entails? Like if I'm an artist like he is reaching out to Funky Moose Records in aid to try and get my album pressed to vinyl, what how does that look?
So we're not a pressing plant, but we do have connections with pressing plants around Canada and some in the US. So basically what we do is we have a form on the website, and with the standard questions that a pressing plant would ask, like, do you want 140 or 180 gram vinyl? Do you want it colored? Do you want it splattered?
Right.
Do you want a gatefold? Do you want, printed sleeves, whatever? And we take all that information, we send that out to the pressing plants, and then we basically compare which pressing plant is most affordable and can do what we want it to do. So, for example, if you want 200 black records with a white paper sleeve and a very plain outside, any pressing plant can do that. But if you want something a little bit more special with gatefolds and and
colored vinyl
records, inserts. Most of them can do that, but there are some that have higher minimums for that. So it's a bit of a puzzle, and you just reach out to the plants and see which one makes more sense.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
and you can do that yourself. I mean, we don't have to do that for you, but because we have the connections, you don't have to write 25 emails.
That's right.
We already have the connection. So
basically fill out the same form with you, and then you'll distribute that form out to all the plants to try and make that connection for them. Right on. And right now, so for his, you're currently just waiting on pricing from the other plants?
Yeah, I think we have pricing for 4 back. We're just waiting on 1 or 2 more, and then
okay.
And then take it from there.
We'll just send you the top 3 kind of thing, because if one pressing plant says we can do it for 2,000, then we won't even consider the one that offers 6,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Process of elimination. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. That's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. Process of elimination. It's very expensive, right? So you gotta really, really shop around and see what the options are, because vinyls are pricey.
And it's also the extra options. Like, for example, if you have, and this is a hypothetical number, but if you want 200 colored records, might be cheaper with pressing plant A than with pressing plant B. But if you want black, but then you want
plant B might be cheaper than
a colored inner sleeve or whatever, then plant B might be cheaper. So it's very variable. It's not a clear cookie cutter. Here's a price and this is it.
Right.
Yeah.
There was not that. I think it was about a year ago when I was trying to price out. Was that a year or 2 ago? I was trying to figure out, like, hey, we should start pressing vinyl, like Funky Moose Records. Like, let's go. So I started running numbers.
I remember how that conversation went. Joel pitched me, and the only word that came out of me was no.
Yeah, no. Which I still don't agree with.
That's fine.
But what I managed to find out of this was a while back, so it's probably more expensive now. But long story short, is it would have cost $800,000.
Oh gosh.
To just have one machine to be able to start pressing. I was just like, holy crap, like, we got a lot of work to do if we need to come up with $800,000. Like, I'm not going for a loan or nothing. But yeah, I don't know, man. To me, like, there's no pressing plants in Saskatchewan. And in my opinion, my personal opinion, there's such a high demand for vinyl records where I just think that, it would be a smart business move to, get 1 or 2 pressing machines and start a business in Saskatchewan pressing vinyl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The only thing is, like anything, you don't know how long the whole, thing of people having vinyls is going to last. Right. I mean, you could have a good, 15-year run and like still being a good thing, but you never know. 10, 5 years, like, some new trend comes along, and then, you're stuck with a machine like they cost you $800,000.
That's true, right?
I think that's exactly. I think
it.
That's in a lot of industries right now, though. Like, way back in the day, you could start something ambitious and you could have a 25, 30-year run, but now I think everything is more fast-paced. Yeah. So you come up with something, well, 2 days later, someone else has the same idea and may outpace you. So it's like,
and the way technology is evolving at the rapid pace that it is too. Like, I look at, I've got this machine. What the hell is it called? It's like it's for CDs. I think it's called a Tascam CD RW 700, whatever the hell the name of it is. Yeah. Right. But essentially what it is to like burn a master disc. Right. So like if you sent me your tracks, I can then upload those tracks to this machine, burn a master disc, and then from there I can copy that disc and, print CDs. Right.
Yeah.
Now the thing, like, I'm sure in its day it was high end, right?
Yeah.
But now, like, there's apps you can get on your computer that does so much more than what this machine does. Like, I can't put track information in it. I can't put the length of the track in there. I can't put the title in it. None of that. All I can do is just put the tracks on, make a master disc. Like that's all this thing does. I can adjust like audio levels and like treble and that kind of like finicky stuff, which I never do. But well, there's no need to, because it's all set, right? But my point being is the evolution of it. Like that machine is so flippin' outdated.
Oh yeah,
that it doesn't make, you know what I mean? I can get something that's
absolutely
for $100. I can get something that's easier, and it's just an app on a computer. Or whatever,
that's the
right?
problem with technology nowadays, right? You never know, like, you know, you could be outdated like in a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know?
right.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And it's also business ideas in general. If you have a business idea and you say something on social media, oh, that's a good idea, I'll try that too.
Boom.
And
There
then
you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
So if there's ever any record pressing plants that pop up in Saskatchewan that are not Funky Moose Records, it's because we were just
we
What
want
are you
royalties.
talking about?
that's my idea.
Somebody might find something in their garage or, you know, the basement, and like, hey, we can
Right?
refurbish.
Yeah.
We can refurbish this.
Yeah.
You know. It
Yeah.
won't cost
Oh, yeah, well-
$1,000.
That's exactly where my head was at when that all started, because I was telling Mark, well, how hard could it be? You just need like that plastic rubber vinyl piece, that puck or whatever. You just need a big hydraulic cylinder and some heat, and then, you know, just I was like thinking of like building it myself. I was like, we could do this.
That's just painful to listen to, man. That's not how that works.
But it is, though.
No.
Well,
I'll show
it
you a video
is.
how record pressing
I
works.
mean, there's some people that are doing it like so very high end level, and they're very busy, and they charge a lot of money. Like, I mean, you know, waiting time could be 6 months for
Right.
right. So
Yep.
it's it's definitely not as easy as it might look.
Right.
Yeah,
But
and
that's
if you-
also like I would lean towards that's another good reason on why Saskatchewan should have one, because there's such a big waiting list. They're in high demand, and pressing plants just, you know, I don't know if it's they can't keep up or the work that's involved, but like I just think that we need more of them so that
Oh yeah.
there isn't a 6-month wait list for
Yeah, no,
200 vinyls. Like
Yep.
you can press those in 4 hours, man. What's taking so long? Let's go. Get her done. The machine I was looking at could do that in 4 hours. So I'm just
How
saying.
many records in 4
How
hours?
many records?
I could do 200
Yeah,
in
but
4 to 6 hours.
I mean,
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yep.
right? So like,
Yep.
you know, if somebody's ordering 200 records, why does it take 6 months?
but then you have like 40 minutes per record. Like
Yeah, it's
18
about
like
roughly
18 minutes max per side, right?
well, but so that's only when you create the master disc.
Yeah.
That's only real time when it has to get carved out, so to speak. But then the pressing itself is literally
Yeah,
And
once
then-
you've got
Okay.
the master,
Yep.
it's like the CDs, right? You make the master disc, and then from there you just make a bunch of copies,
cool.
which is similar with vinyl, except for
if it's a good investment, go ahead, man. Because I know they're on demand, at least for now. Maybe in the next
Yeah.
4 or 5
Right.
years, at least. I think.
Well, I think this problem has been going on since 2016.
Isn't it
Yeah.
since Adele or like
No,
backlogged
it's
everything?
way back.
It was prior to that.
Yeah. So when I started Funky Moose Records in 2015, I already started hearing rumors that, well, it's because the pressing plants back then were refurbishing old machines. So old presses that they dug up somewhere.
Yeah.
And because they were old machines, the parts were hard to come by. And the service mechanics, there were only like 4 in the world. So they had to travel the whole world to service these machines. That's why they started to get a backlog. And then there was Viral Technologies in Toronto that thought, well, why don't we just build new ones? So they started building new ones.
Right.
And that's
Like
the company.
engineering new ones, like modern ones.
Yeah, that's the company you looked at. But essentially, the process is still the same. The machines are just a little
Different parts.
more modern, but it's still, you have to still put that puck in there. It still needs to get squished. So it's still a very manual process. And the fact that the startup cost is so high, I think that's why we're not seeing pressing plants pop up left and right, because it's so expensive to
Yeah,
set
it
up.
is expensive.
Right.
It's like
Yeah,
recording
for sure.
on real tape, right? You know, if you're gonna record on
Yep.
tape, it's
Yep.
the same thing. I mean, the quality of sound is completely different. It's amazing, but it is expensive nowadays. Back
Yep.
in the days when you can find that everywhere, it wasn't that expensive. But and then
Yep.
you got new technology, but the record is something that it's an old technology. So as much as you can
Yep.
rush it, you can only rush it so far. It's like
That's right.
it's like learning how to play classical piano or trumpet. As much as you can rush it, you cannot rush it that much because it's just, it's something that it's not from this century.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know,
You can only play so many hours in a day.
I mean, today
Yeah.
with so much technology and things like distraction, like kids, unless you lock yourself in a room and isolate yourself from the world, the amount of hours of practicing, it's nearly impossible. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, coming back to your latest album here, how long was the duration of time that it took you from like the idea of, okay, I'm gonna do a new album, to like it's mastered and ready to be pressed on vinyl?
How long? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I always got a lot of ideas lingering, and the first thing, I think step one for everything is to have the idea and to have some kind of demo type of music that you can sort of present, and then see if you can get a grant for it. Because without funds, that
Right.
just makes it way more complicated and difficult to achieve. So the idea can come and it could be sitting in there, and until you get funds, there's really not anywhere you can go farther, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, from the time we got the OAC grant till the time it finished, it took almost a year. Also, we did it during pandemic times, right? So I had to record a lot of trumpets here in my studio right here.
Right.
And a lot of people, it might not sound like, but a lot of people did it everybody did it like in their own studio, in their own place. So it was a lengthy process, longer than usual. I on my records, to recording time will be maybe 3 days in studio. That will be it. Right?
Oh.
And this might take a week or two for a song to get around everybody to do the parts, and then correct stuff. So take about like maybe 2 weeks to get a song done, everybody, right? Because
Oh wow.
yeah. So it was a lengthy process, more than I'm used to. But the final product was, I'm happy with it. It came out really nice. You wouldn't think it wasn't recorded everybody together. But yeah, I mean, everybody did the best that they could in their own studios, and we sort of have a conversation, but it was a mental conversation, a virtual conversation that got reflected in the music, right? We sort of
You betcha.
got into it, right?
Yeah. So, okay. So by recording the album that way, right?
Yeah.
Like through the pandemic and everybody's in their own studios doing it. Now, if you're like fast forward a little bit to the completion of it and you want to tour this album now, are you bringing in the artists that are on the actual tracks on the album, or are you like getting session players to join you on tour?
Well, for this particular album, I didn't conceive it with the idea of touring it, and the reason is because there's many different ensembles in it, right? So touring this album would be very difficult. This is an album that you can put like at a show, at a festival, or theater, like just put a show of it, not tour it, because it'll be really expensive. There's too many different ensembles. like every 2 songs there's a different ensemble, completely, from big band to strings to smaller ensemble to bigger ensemble to a quartet to jazz stuff. So singers, no singers. So yeah, I didn't consider with this is the first album I've made that it wasn't with the idea of touring it. It was about the music and the music only.
Right.
It was about putting the music, like people hear it. I mean, I will play a couple of songs in my regular show that can be done with a format that I might be playing my show with, but actually the entire album, yeah, that would be very, very difficult. I'm hoping that 2024 I can actually put one show with everything on it, and that would be the only way I could do it, and that would be the only thing I would like to do. Like, if I'm gonna play this live, it has to be with proper ensembles, right? So
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So then, when you look back at older records, do you see it as a kind of a roadblock almost, where you had this in mind that you were gonna put this on, like, on a tour, so you kept it small? Is that kind of how you look at it, or?
It wasn't with the idea of keeping it small to put it on the road. It was more like, okay, this is the ensembles that I'm working with. This is the format that I want to work with, and not necessarily just for the tour, but for gigs and stuff. This is a format that is flexible, but in studio you can always add more stuff. So it wasn't really stopping. Like, if I want to embellish anything in the studio, if I want to make anything bigger in studio, I can do it. That wouldn't really stop me from developing the idea that I wanted to. But yeah, I mean, I did good amount of gigs with my previous album, Sandstorm. It was like a bit of a fusion thing, and I didn't even realize, like, I didn't thought that it was gonna get like Juno nominated in 2019, and I actually did. But it was weird. Like, I went into, like, a fusion kind of phase, and I put my pedals on and a bunch of weird sounds and stuff, and you never know, like, that people liked it. So yeah,
You made it for yourself, and other people like it too.
Yeah. I just made it fun. I wanted to make, because I don't like to get, and this is what happens a lot in the music business. Every musician gets a tag, right? You're this kind of artist, you're that kind of artist.
Yeah.
Like, you do this and you do that. But if you feel related and understand different styles of music, you shouldn't be subject to that tag. Like, you cannot be pressed to that one, right? So that's why every single album that I do, I try to make it different, because when I moved to Toronto, I got involved in many music scenes, and I know a lot of musicians in different music scenes, not only in the Latin scene, right? I played a lot of funk and R&B. Obviously, I played, the Latin scene. I played a lot of straight ahead jazz, bebop stuff. So, and I knew people in all of those ensembles. And throughout the years that I've been living here, I developed a lot of good friends and relationships, and work with a lot of artists. I worked in Canadian Idol for many years. I tour with anybody who's like pop or jazz or Latin or whatever, right? So it's I've been immersed in different ensembles, Caribbean music, like Trinidadian music. I've worked with a couple of Trini artists. So anything that influenced me at that time, I might put it in my upcoming album, just because it's something that I've been dealing with more than others. Yeah. So,
but but hang on, you can't just drop Canadian Idol in there and then continue on with your sentence. What did you do with Canadian Idol?
I was part of the band. I was a trumpet player.
No way.
Yeah, I was a trumpet player on. As soon as it started, well, in season 1, there was no live band until the end, but all the horns were done in studio, so we did it in studio. But I think it was season 2 or 3, they started having a band on stage, full not just the rhythm section, but horns or whatever. And yeah, I was a trumpet player on that for whatever 16.
Oh my
years
God.
it lasted. Yeah.
We got to do like a little bit of research before this episode goes out and see if we can find a little image of him in the corner there or whatever on stage.
There's a song. What's his name? Tom Jones. He did he launched a new song back in, I don't know, 2006, I want to say 6 or 7 or maybe 10. And he did it on Canadian Idol, and for some reason that song had a trumpet solo on it. So there's a little video of me playing a trumpet solo on.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I'm gonna do some digging tonight. I'm gonna look for it tonight.
I didn't have dreads. I had different type of hairstyle, but sometimes I have like really short hair. I also did Canada's Walk of Fame a bunch of times. There's a song with what's his name, Paul Schaefer, called "The Cat." Okay. So we there's a video of Canada's Walk of Fame. Paul Schaefer, Joey DeFrancesco, Dr. Lonnie Smith, and who's the other one? Doug Riley. There was an organ summit, right? So we played the Cat with an organ summit with Paul Schaefer and stuff. So yeah, there's a bunch of things out there.
That's cool, man.
That's
awesome.
It's a cool thing. It's a cool song.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I don't want to get hung up on this, but we've had someone on the show that was as there as a contestant, but it's also cool to hear behind the scenes when you're not a contestant, because I think when you're part of the band, there's a lot less pressure than being a contestant, I would assume.
Oh, for sure. I would agree.
I would say the opposite.
Oh, for real?
Really? Oh, okay.
Well, because I mean, if you're contesting and you messed up, it's on you, right? Because you're messing up. But the band had to try to not mess up for you, and the band had to try to follow you if you mess up, so you don't sound and look bad. So it's double the pressure, because you cannot mess up, and if they mess up, you have to fix their mess.
That makes sense.
On TV.
Okay, I take that back. I take it back.
Was there how nerve-wracking? Oh, well, I guess you just answered that. Like, I was going to say, how nerve-wracking is that, having to do that on a weekly basis or whatnot on live TV and everything? But like you just said, it's like double the pressure.
You sort of, we had Oren Isaacs, the MD, right, the musical director for it, and he had a contingency plan for any possible outcome. So we were sort of mentally prepared to what can or cannot happen. I mean, they always had a couple of rehearsals or whatever, right? So if there's something that was not clear, or that had potentially to be derailed, we were sort of knowing that something might or might not happen in a part of a song, and there's always a contingency plan to make sure that nothing really bad happens through the song or whatever. So I mean, it's not relaxing. You're not relaxed. You're just making sure everything gets done properly, and you do your job the best you can. And I mean, it's always, you always got to be prepared for any outcome, anything that might go.
Yeah. Like any other job, right? Exactly. You're on the clock and you're just waiting for it to be over. Let's just get through this night.
I mean, it was fun. It was fun. We didn't really talk much with the contenders. Like we eventually say hi, whatever, say a couple words here and there. Or they might come and talk to the band. Hey, you guys, talk about. But you can't really engage much into a lot of conversation, anyways. With the people in the competition, right?
Heck yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. It was a fun.
Are you still in touch with the people that were in the band?
Yes, well, some of them actually, not all of them, but the horn players, yes, the horn players. We're on the scene. We play everywhere. Um, couple of the guys in the band. Yeah, I mean, everybody's local musicians, so we all do all kinds of gigs
Right.
around,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So eventually we cross paths. Um, yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
How long has it been since you've been able to perform in front of a crowd, like have your own show?
Oh, I did. I've done it. I've done it quite often, actually. I did it last year. I did the TD Jazz Festival.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did a bunch of clubs. I went to was it 2021? I went to Alberta. I did the jazz club there, the big jazz society club, the Yardbird Suite.
Okay.
It's a big club. And I haven't been to BC in a long time, but yeah, we went to Alberta, and yeah, no, I've done some stuff in and out. And yeah, I played shows in town. I got, it's kind of like a weekly thing. I play a lot of stuff,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
you do that.
Heck yeah. Do you have like your little go-to spots?
Yeah. I do a lot of gigs at Lula Lounge. Right, Lula Lounge is like
Okay.
the biggest salsa Latin club in Toronto, but it's like an art center. It's like a cultural center. So during the week, any given day of the week, there could be any kind of show. So it's a big club,
Right.
and they put everything. They put all kinds of shows.
Nice.
But when it comes to like Friday and Saturday, it's Latin. So I've done jazz shows. I've done R&B shows there. I've done obviously Friday nights and Saturday nights Latin band stuff. So that's one of the plays. I used to play at Poetry Jazz Cafe, which was a very trendy in Kensington Market. It was a very trendy, one of those jazz club, but not really a jazz club. It was to me it was the type of club that would enlighten people about music that they didn't know about.
Right.
So it recently moved to a different part of town, still downtown, but I don't know if you're familiar, if you've been in town. The Kensington Market is an area that has a lot of walking people. It's very trendy. Like they have like little shops, like record shops and clothes and meat shops, and they have everything, right? It's like a little market area in China, like in the middle of Chinatown, but it's like it's an oasis in Chinatown. It has nothing to do with Chinese culture. It's just a trendy hub, like maybe 5-6 blocks around. So anyways, there was a club there called Poetry Jazz Cafe, and the beauty for me in that spot is people will walk around and they just look at the glass, and then they see a band and it sounded good, and then they just walked in. They didn't know what kind of music was, what type of music was. There was no label on the music. It was just live music. Could be completely instrumental, like totally instrumental live music, a band, quartet, trio, whatever, just rocking. And people were just going just because it sounded good.
Nice. That's the best.
It's kind of hard to find a spot like that often in town that is in an area where there's a lot of movement and people will go in just because it sounds good. I mean, some people will come because they know you're there, but there's a lot of walk-ins that hey man, that's awesome. And then I got people come and say, hey, this is the first time I hear jazz. This is amazing. Like how often do you hear that? Somebody that you walked in and they're like, oh, is this jazz? Like, but I mean, because jazz has a bad concept of being an old music or being a boring music or being just a music for the musicians, and there's all kinds of ways that you can make it interesting, and younger guys every day they demonstrate, like if they're in this sort of more hop kind of movement. There's many ways that you can sort of demonstrate that it's not like it's something that you can enjoy, like the audience can enjoy. and they can get in there. You can draw the audience into like getting and creating a vibe, and without having a singer, without saying a word, just with the music and the vibe of the music and the intensity of the music, you can get people to just rock with you. And that was one of the places that would like demonstrate that every night, at least every weekend night, you will see people like literally crowding. It was a small place, but they're literally crowding the stage, and you didn't need an electric guitar or a singer, right? You just need some good like groove, like 3-4 guys just getting into it. And I used to play there often with a trio, with a quartet, and it was great time. And for me, it was like I'm introducing people to jazz without the bad concept of jazz. They're like people are like, oh,
right,
is this jazz? And then they don't have a preconceived idea that like, oh, you got to sit in the theater or you got to go to a snobby jazz club and people are just gonna play. No, this is like, let's just have some beers
and doing
jump
these
around. Exactly, right? Just jump around, groove around, have some beers, scream, just get into it, right? Like any party.
Hell yeah, dude.
Like any party, right? So
hell yeah.
That was before the pandemic. That was one of the spots I used to play maybe once a month, and it was great. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Beautiful. Well, with that, why don't you let the people who are watching or listening know where the best place we can direct them to find your music is?
Definitely my website, alexisbaro.com. You can find my music in Spotify and Apple Music, iTunes, all the platforms that usually everybody puts their music on, because otherwise nobody will hear you unless you're out there or
right?
something, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, for those of you watching, we will have the links to those in the description to this video.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know that you've got an open door policy here. If you ever want to come back, give us an update on how the tours or albums or whatever you got going on, man. If you want to talk about it, the door is open. We'd love to have you come back.
And if we get that record pressed, I would like either a signed copy or at least a shout out saying that, look, this is what it's
for. Yeah, you can buy one off of him, dude.
Good, yeah. But I want it signed.
Yeah.
I'll sign it.
He'll pay double for that signature.
For sure.
Right
man.
on.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it, man. It's a great time talking to you.
Oh man, it was great to meet you. I love hanging out with you guys on a weekly basis, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go listen to some more music because like I'm so uneducated on jazz music, and today was kind of like I'm stepping into it now to try and feel it, get into it, and it's all because of you. So I thank you for that, and I'm going to enjoy it. So I appreciate the shit out of you, man. And you come back anytime, man.
I will.
Yeah. Welcome to the herd.
Welcome to the herd.
All
That's right.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for having me.